German-Nigerian diplomatic relations have come a long way, building mutual understanding in all facets of human endeavors since the return of democracy in 1999. Since then, the leadership of the two countries have always shown commitment to strengthen their existing cooperation. From February 8 to February 12, 2016, Federal President of Germany, Joachim Gauck, undertook an official visit to Nigeria, traveling to Lagos and Abuja. It was the first visit of a federal president since 2008. On arrival at the presidential villa Abuja, the German president was received and accorded a warm reception by President Muhammadu Buhari. The visiting president also inspected a guard of honor mounted on his behalf. The official state visit of the German president further gave an insight into the German commitment towards Africa and Nigeria. The German president called for cooperation with Africa. He told the West African leaders in Nigeria that his country remains an open country for all. The German leader said Africa and Europe must work together to tackle terrorism and the cause of refugee flows. Gauck also spoke about developing emerging and industrialized countries could only be solved together. The leader said, besides developing relations between Germany and Nigeria in the areas of trade, bilateral talks, he said, Germany is mostly concerned with the insurgency experienced in some parts of the country. One priority area of economic relations is cooperation in the energy sector over the years. These, among many others, were strengthened by the meeting of the two leaders. Nigeria is Germany's second most important trading partner in sub-Saharan Africa, and this has translated into many goodwill partnerships in the areas of large volume of trade and investment between the two countries. In 2014, for instance, German imports from Nigeria were worth €3.95 billion, while German exports to Nigeria were worth €1.39 billion. Germany ranks 9th among Nigeria's export destinations and 10th among suppliers of Nigerian imports. With all these among many other economic partnerships, the two countries have remained resolute to improve their relationship. The German president and his team, after very much close bilateral discussions with President Muhammadu Buhari and some government officials, jointly addressed the press. The visiting president expressed happiness with the warm reception and hospitality of the Nigerian people and government. He said, the German people and government are strongly in support of Nigeria's government's effort in addressing security challenges. He also expressed the condolences of the German government over some terrorist attacks in the northeast. Mr. Gauck commended Nigerian leadership over the invitation and the opportunity to know the country and its people better, by extension, deepening and intensifying bilateral relationships. In his submission, the German president described Nigerians as hospitable people with impressive spirit of enterprise and hope to succeed in all endeavors.
I can only say that I'm deeply grateful for having been invited and for having been provided with the opportunity to get to know the country and its people, to talk to you about where we can further intensify and deepen our bilateral relationship. Nigeria is indeed a very hospitable country with impressive people and a spirit of hope of a country being on the move.
President Buhari, in his response, thanked the German president for honoring the country with his visit. While looking forward to more ties, the president commended Germany in its role to help address refugee crises caused by terrorist activities in Syria and other countries facing similar terrorist attacks.
Have you paid VAT? Yes, VAT, Value Added Tax. VAT is a tax paid on all goods and services and remitted by the seller of the goods or provider of the service to the government. 5% VAT is added to the total cost of goods and services in Nigeria, and when remitted to government is used for funding development. If you have not, look out for the Federal Inland Revenue Engagement and Enlightenment Tax Team's feet as they visit your area soon. They will educate you and help you register to pay VAT. You can also visit the FIRS office nearest to you to register to pay VAT. The VAT you pay will be used by government to develop our transport infrastructure like roads and railway lines, to continually improve our educational sector by building more schools and upgrading existing ones, and to provide adequate security and a better quality of life for us all. Pay your VAT. Make contribution to the development of Nigeria. It pays to pay your tax. This message is from the Federal Inland Revenue Service.
The government of Nigeria wanted dedicated technical ability and expertise that would engage in trade negotiations with neighbors, countries on the continent, and in multilateral institutions like the WTO. And so what they wanted to see was specialization and technical ability in negotiating trade agreements. Secondly, the government wanted to use trade interlocked with investment as engines for growth, and to be able to pursue the governmental priority of economic diversification. Thirdly, there was the evidence actually showed that there was a lot of coordination deficit. There were things that we had to do better and correct and improve on. Many of our trade agreements are from the 1950s. Yes, from the 1950s, well before independence. We couldn't find them. From the office of our first foreign minister and first prime minister and first head of government, we couldn't find them. So there was a need to, in order to be able to move forward very strongly, to be able to look back and get our act together. There was also the issue that trade negotiating function was dispersed across MDAs, and that was creating difficulties with regard to having a left-hand, right-hand problem. We needed to be better coordinated, we needed to be better focused, we needed to improve our play and improve our act in a very fast evolving 21st century. And so we were put to work. And then, of course, there was also the challenge that Nigeria was faced with. That was the challenge of the negotiations for the African Continental Free Trade Area. Those negotiations had been initiated by African Union heads of state and government in 2012 at their 18th Ordinary Assembly. The actual negotiations per se were launched in Johannesburg in 2015. And it was an issue for the government that we needed to line up our ducks in a row, concert our energies, and move rapidly and aggressively on the negotiations for the agreement establishing the African Continental Free Trade Area. And then, of course, there was a question of the WTO, an indispensable organization in transition where Nigeria has played a leadership role, not just from the establishment of the WTO in 1995, but from when we joined as a country, joined the predecessor organization of the WTO, which was the General Agreement on Tariffs and Trade. And remember, Nigeria joined in 1960. Now, finally, there was a mandate, as you would see in the decision by the Federal Executive Council on the 10th of May last year, to establish this office, the Nigerian Office for Trade Negotiations. Even then, and then was the 10th of May last year, the Federal Executive Council was seriously concerned that Nigeria should build up a 21st century effective trade remedy infrastructure. An infrastructure that would be able to invoke anti-dumping duties, invoke countervailing duties against countries and neighbors illegally distorting trade and subsidizing their trade, and also a trade remedy infrastructure that would have a safeguard measure on the basis of which you can pull the handbrakes, to use the metaphor from automobile technology, to stop a surging surge of imports. But remember what trade agreements and trade engagements are. On the one hand, you want to establish a platform to drive your offensive market access interests in the region, in the continent, in the global economy. And on the other hand, you also want to balance it up with trade remedy infrastructure on the basis of which you can apply rules-based safeguards for a range of reasons: national security, food security, industrial policy, poverty reduction, and the like. So these were the reasons that went into the decision by the Federal Executive Council to have the Nigerian office established on the 10th of May last year. But the actual physical establishment here in this office where we are, which, as you know, is in the building owned, I should say, by the Nigerian Export Promotion Council, the actual physical establishment was in August of last year. So this is an office that's barely 12 months in existence, but we've done a bit, I would say, to contribute to national trade and economic priorities. Every achievement in government is based on a partnership. I do want you and Nigerians to understand that it's contributions to partnerships. There really is no government agency, ministry, department, or agency that achieves anything alone. We have contributed to Nigeria's ratification of the WTO Agreement on Trade Facilitation. And as you know, the Agreement on Trade Facilitation is mutually supportive, very, very mutually supportive with the Ease of Doing Business program, which is one of the major achievements by His Excellency President Muhammadu Buhari. It's obvious that it's one of the principal achievements of this government. The President's Enabling Business Environment Initiative, on the basis of which the country has been moved up in the World Bank report 24 places and categorized in the league of top 10 reformers in the world. One of the factors that has made Nigerians hesitant on trade liberalization is the fact that the economy has been the object of predatory economic attacks. There are those who have in a very unsportsmanlike way and harmful way, have transshipped and dumped products in the Nigerian market. They have pirated Nigerian intellectual property. They have subsidized products in our economy, and they have sold products and merchandise below their production and market prices in this economy. And this is an achievement in progress. In December last year, we signed an agreement with the leading law firm in the global economy. And we signed an MOU with them on the basis of which they are working with us to build our capacity, Nigerian capacity to establish a trade remedy infrastructure. Over the next few weeks and months, we will be putting together a bill, together with accompanying draft executive regulations that will be reviewed by government. will be setting up a trade remedy infrastructure on the basis of which we will have more involved, real-time, and robust trade remedy infrastructure, and hopefully with an investigating authority to do this. I've also been promised technical assistance from the Secretariat of the World Trade Organization to be able to do this. Many of our countrymen and women, natural persons, natural Nigerians, who have retail businesses in a number of African countries, are subject to undue and illegal harassment. And so what we're also setting up here in this office is a database where we'll be able to register these complaints and then take them up in a vigorous way, both through interdiction and in terms of through consultative process. We are working on the details of a memorandum of understanding with the Nigerian Institute for Advanced Legal Studies and the Section on Business Law, SBL, of the Nigerian Bar Association on how we can begin to use trade law and the dispute settlement mechanism and the rules and procedures on the settlement of disputes to be able to go after those that undermine our trade interests, undermine our trade priorities, and that nullify and impair the benefits that should accrue to Nigerian producers of merchandise and providers of services. For any area of public policy, like trade policy, to function effectively and deliver, it needs a constituency. And so you have a foreign policy constituency, you have a constituency for environmental protection, you have a constituency for the sustainable development goals. Now, one of the things where we're working hard is to build a constituency for trade policy, a constituency for trade liberalization and trade opening, and to have greater acceptance that trade opening and trade liberalization are engines for growth. You see, in trade policy, you don't have money to hand out. You don't have a budget that you give to different people. Basically, a lot of the gains from trade come from competitiveness. The gains from trade come from reforms, from structural reforms. And so it's not an area where it's easy to build a constituency. And so one major challenge is building that constituency, and we're hoping that you and the media will help us do this. Coordination. Coordination is always a challenge. And you have to work hard at it. Internal coordination between and amongst MDAs, domestic coordination between the public sector, in other words, MDAs, and the private sector, coordination between and amongst the private sector themselves. You see, different sectors and different constituencies are not monoliths. There's no uniformity. And so working hard for coordination is also a challenge in itself. From the actual physical establishment of this office on the 14th of August last year, we're barely a year. And so we have the challenges that confront. I mean, it's exciting. I don't want to convey the signal or the message that this is a depressing exercise. It isn't. There's the challenge of building something new, of recruiting young men and women motivated about using trade as an engine for growth. Trade lawyers, trade economists, trade statisticians are people who understand the power of trade and the power of trade liberalization. But getting the right mix of talents the negotiators, the statisticians, the trade remedy people, the lawyers, getting them into a coherent, malleable, flexible and versatile mix that can turn the heat on our rivals and our challenges and make sure that we grow this economy through the extension of market access and through creating, improving lots of opportunities for our people. It's not an easy thing, but I must say that as challenging as it is, it's the most exciting part of one's work. There is the resource issues. You know, it's a classical problem of economics, infinite demands and finite supply of resources to do whatever it is you want to do. But nobody weeps over that, because that's a fundamental problem of managing any institution, of managing any country, of managing any economy. The demands are infinite and the supplies are limited. The Nigerian Office for Trade Negotiations should be seen as part of a whole range of reforms by our President, His Excellency Mr. Muhammadu Buhari, President and Commander-in-Chief of the Armed Forces of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. I tell you something, it takes a lot of strong will and determination to do the hard things and do the tough things. I was in Addis on the 28th of January this year when he spoke at the African Union, and the African Union vested him with the authority of being Africa's crusader, if you like, standard bearer on anti-corruption. And that was a moment of pride for every Nigerian. A lot of trade work is about good governance in the area of the economy, and the ease of doing business. The Presidential Enabling Business Environment Council, our priority, is very much coextensive with what the Nigerian Office for Trade Negotiations was mandated to do. If you watch our president, Mr. Buhari, he's very focused, he's very determined, and he hardly ever swerves from the goals that he has set to do what is right and what will grow the Nigerian economy. Speaking for myself professionally, I think that Nigerians are fortunate to have a president with determination on the fundamental challenge that faces this country, and that is dealing with the systemic problem of corruption, of using the instruments of trade, investment, and an improved business environment to grow the economy. So we're here as a part of that mandate. It's an imperfect world. Nothing is perfect. But I think that a judgment and a conclusion that we can all reach is that we are moving in the right direction. And thanks to the leadership of the President.
Paid VAT? Yes, VAT. Value Added Tax. VAT is a tax paid on all goods and services and remitted by the seller of the goods or provider of the service to the government. 5% VAT is added to the total cost of goods and services in Nigeria, and when remitted to government is used for funding development. If you have not, look out for the Federal Inland Revenue Engagement and Enlightenment Tax Team's feet as they visit your area soon. They will educate you and help you register to pay VAT. You can also visit the FIRS office nearest to you to register to pay VAT. The VAT you pay will be used by government to develop our transport infrastructure like roads and railway lines, to continually improve our educational sector by building more schools and upgrading existing ones, and to provide adequate security and a better quality of life for us all. Pay your VAT. Make contribution to the development of Nigeria. It pays to pay your tax. This message is from the Federal Inland Revenue Service.